Everybody ready for the weekend preview segment, which is now sponsored? We are now sponsored by Three Chimneys for the weekend preview segment. So hit hat tip to Three Chimneys. A lot of exciting things going on over there that we're going to talk about in just a little bit. But we have some action at Saratoga that we're going to get to. We're going to have some action at Del Mar that we might get to. But the big action this weekend in the middle of August is at Churchill Downs. I almost forgot about this until I saw the PPs and the entries come out. Saturday, they're going to run the Arlington Million and the Beverly D at Churchill Downs. Obviously, those were heretofore run at Arlington Park, and we all miss Arlington already. And I don't want to give Churchill too much credit because they are taking the wrecking ball to Arlington Park, but it's at least nice that they're keeping up the tradition of these races and picking out a day on the calendar to run them. Those are going to be the two grade ones. Saturday at Churchill is an 11-race card. The Arlington Million, not all that interesting. I think the interesting part is Smooth Like Straight, who's going to have to stretch out a little bit to 1 1/8 miles. It's not 1 1/4 miles anymore because Churchill can't run 1 1/4 miles turf races. Santan, who won the Turf Classic earlier this year at Churchill, is back in this race. So it's a little bit interesting. Beverly D is a short field, 5-horse field, but the subplot of all of this, unfortunately, I think, is the Churchill Turf Course. Because they haven't run any turf races at Churchill since June. They were supposed to run races, it was like early in June too. They were supposed to run races on the July 4th weekend on the turf. They had to cancel those. They had to cancel turf racing for several weeks at Churchill because there were problems with this new turf course. It's a brand new turf course that was built over the off season that they debuted this year at the Churchill Spring Meet. So fingers crossed, for safe racing and all that. And I've never really seen this scenario or thought of this scenario where there hadn't been turf racing for months, and you come back for one day and run 2 grade ones on it. It's a little bit scary, but hopefully they've gotten the issues, worked out, and turf racing can be back full time in the fall at Churchill. But any thoughts from you guys on the Arlington Million or the Bev D?
Yeah, a couple of things. And Joe, I agree with you. I mean, Churchill is the outfit that everybody loves to hate. They didn't have to do this. And I do think they deserve some credit. And, I'm trying to think why, it seems everything they do is just bottom line oriented. I don't know how they're going to make any extra money off this or anything like this. They're paying out the big purses. But on the other side of the coin, these fields for the Arlington Million and Beverly D are not particularly strong. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Only 5 in the Beverly D. In the Arlington Million, you got a few more, but between the two races, only one foreign runner, Aidan O'Brien, brings in a horse for the Beverly D, and not a single foreign horse in the Arlington Million. So I'm wondering if some trainers were a little bit hesitant that, okay, we're uncertain about the turf course at Churchill, let's pick another spot. I also think the 1 1/8 might have hurt them a little bit too, because at the 1 1/4 miles versus a 1 1/8 they're two very different races. And the 1 1/8 is now going up against the Fourstardave at 1 mile on the turf at Saratoga. So I think that's part of the equation in here. But, hopefully, I don't think there's any reason to believe that it won't be a safe day of racing. The turf course won't hold up. But it's also, I don't think you mentioned, Joe, the fact that there were 2 other turf stakes on the card, the Secretariat and another one, I don't remember the name of the other one, that they actually canceled. So they're not going to take a chance to run more than the 2. Not great fields, not races that you're getting too excited for. But yes, it's good to see the Arlington Million and the Beverly D still out there, and that tradition is being upheld.
I think that when these races run, there's going to be a lot of people holding their breath for that minute and 50 seconds each that these races are, because they're going to be holding their breath, hoping that every single horse that runs, finishes safely, more so than they're hoping for an exciting finish. You're right, Bill. They don't have to do this, and it's really weird the way that they set it up to have basically this short meet. And I know people usually love these boutique days and boutique weekends and everything like that, but I just don't know how it's going to be received. I'm glad that Churchill Downs is honoring the fact that they're running these 2 grade 1 races, because grade 1 races are still grade 1s, and they're really difficult to get back once you lose that status. But when I went through the PPs, I was disappointed also. It's just not a great field. And then I went back to look, historically at the last couple of Arlington Millions. And guys, this is my humble opinion, but this race hasn't been that great for a while. Bricks and Mortar won it in 19, but I'd be hard pressed for either of you to name a winner in the past 5, Arlington Millions, unless you bet on them. It's just that it's not that great of a field. You don't look back on this race in particular when come Breeders' Cup time and say, who won the Arlington Million? Because that's a key race. So this race has really lost its luster, as far as entries for a long time. And I'm just wondering if Churchill is holding on to it with the hopes that they're going to be able to reconfigure it and repackage it and make it a different kind of race and a more spectacular race, either, earlier in the year, maybe when they have their usual meet, or something, because it's just these two races in particular have lost their luster and their excitement, at least from a betting and from an owner's standpoint.
Yeah, well, and also I'm interested to see what kind of handle they get on the card because, like I said, I'm sure I'm not the only person who forgot that these races were being run at Churchill in the middle of the summer, and they're going up against Saratoga. Arlington usually had pretty good handle on that card, but Arlington was a track that got a lot of great on-track handle as well, which I don't think Churchill is necessarily going to have this Saturday. You guys are right, and then Bill makes a good point that at a mile and an eighth, it's competing a lot more with the Fourstardave than it would have been, if it were still at a mile and a quarter. Maybe in the fall, maybe if they want to go up against the Joe Hirsch or something, because also now, Kentucky Downs is not that far away. We're only about 3 weeks away from Kentucky Downs. So I think that those races have become more marquee races on the calendar that, people might be overlooking. Even though these are grade ones, it might be overlooking these spots for the big purses at Kentucky Downs. And yeah, it's like you guys are saying, on the one hand, it's nice to see the tradition of these races kept up. But on the other hand, middle of August, mile and an eighth, Arlington Million, where Smooth Like Straight's going to be the favorite. Don't know that that's going to get it done going forward, and it's going to be worth keeping these races, at least on this part of the calendar. So we're gonna take a quick break and toss the Three Chimneys out, and then we're going to come back and talk a little bit of the Saratoga races, because we got the Fourstardave and the Saratoga Special Saturday, and I'll be there. It should be a great day of racing. But Three Chimneys in a very interesting and great spot right now. They have the number one right now, first crop and second crop sires, which is not often, especially for Three Chimneys. Obviously, it's not a small operation, but compared to some of the other gigantic international operations, they're not quite at that size. So for them to have the top two sires in the last two crops, at least right now, is pretty amazing. We're going to talk about Shahraz Tech after the break, because he's been a revelation, but Gunrunner obviously has been the revelation of the past year plus. We saw it last night, the $2.3 million Gunrunner colt. Everybody is jumping in to get a piece of Gunrunner. It was reported last week that CyberKnife's stallion rights have been sold to Spendthrift, so the stallion farms are already trying to get in on the ground floor of those Gunrunner Grade 1 winners. Who's going to stand the first Grade 1 winner by Gunrunner? And John, you're a breeding and sales guy. I'm hesitant to think of a horse that's gotten off to this kind of start in recent years. Obviously American Pharoah and Justify have had great starts for Coolmore. I think of Nyquist a little bit, although he's kind of, I'm not going to say fizzled out, but he's come down a little bit from that big high. Who's the last horse you saw, John, that came out this strong in their first two crops?
Boy, that'd be really hard to come up with one. I mean, you can say maybe American Pharoah, but American Pharoah is because he came out so strong with his first crop, and his second crop just wasn't up to that level. But was still a very good group. He's the first one that kind of comes to mind when you talk about the first two crops hitting the ground running like the way Gunrunner is. But just the fact that, and Joe, you weren't here on that one show when we were talking about the Haskell, but the fact that it was a Gunrunner exacta, and three of the top four horses that finished were Gunrunners, and Knight, who won the Grade 2 Amsterdam, within the same week. It was amazing that Gunrunner had so many horses that were not only running in the big races, but hitting the board in the big races and winning the big races. So it's been a little bit of a surprise, I think, for most people in the industry. I mean, look, the horse stood for $75,000 his first crop for a reason, because he was a great runner, son of Candy Ride, and had conformation out the wazoo. I mean, he's very well conformed. So it wasn't that he was a superstar surprise that his horses are running this well. But I think, to a person in the breeding industry, if you said to them, is Gunrunner going to have the initial success that he's been having, I don't think people would have expected that his foals would have been this precocious, number one, and that they would continue to run in all these Grade 1 races and Grade 2 races and just be astonishing. And that's why he had two yearlings that sold for seven figures, because his foals are proven to be runners. Albeit, I probably had the only Gunrunner that can't run, but that's that's no big deal. But the main thing is, don't focus on me, please. The main thing is that gun runners are running all over the place. And we couldn't even get a gun runner season for our mare population last year. That's how strong of a first crop group he had.
Yeah, I mean, and just you're looking at the numbers. I'm looking at the TD and sire list now, the second crop runners. He's got 9 black type winners. The next closest one, I believe, has 5, which is Classic Empire. Shout out to Coolmore for Classic Empire. But he's got 9 black type winners, 20 black type horses, 5 graded stakes winners, 14 graded stakes horses, 3 grade 1 winners, and 4 grade 1 stakes horses, which is just it's mind boggling that he's that far ahead of his intake right now. So we'll be right back, and we're going to talk a little bit about Sharp Azteca after this message from Three Chimneys.
Here comes Taba. Taba in the center of the track with good-looking strides, squares off with CyberKnife. CyberKnife takes the lead. Taba going with him. These two in a thriller. CyberKnife just in front, and CyberKnife has won the TVG.com Haskell over Taba. Jack Christopher finished third. The running time 1 minute 46.24 seconds.
Gun runners on top of the world.
Come dream with us at Three Chimneys.
And it's all Tyler's Tribe to the final furlong. He's putting on another show tonight. He is 8 lengths in front. Now it's 10, now it's 12. Tyler's Tribe pouring it on as they come down to the line. He's going to win by double digits, and he stops the clock in 1:04.
I mentioned before the break that Three Chimneys has the top first crop and second crop sires right now, which is a remarkable accomplishment. It's obviously early in the first crop season, but Sharp Azteca is kind of lapping the field the way that Gun Runner is lapping the field with his first and second crop runners. Sharp Azteca has 16 winners so far in his freshman season. There's a lot of stallions that don't even have 16 starters yet on the track. He's 7 ahead of the next horse on the list, which is Bolt Doro with 9. So he has been a revelation, especially for a horse who only stands for $5,000 right now. I'm sure that fee is going to go up just based on what he's done so far. And especially as we get later in the year and these horses start running in grade 1 races, they're just going to make him even more and more valuable. And I like Sharp Azteca for one particular reason. Son of Freud. I love having that New York breeding influence continue because Freud has been a terrific New York sire and sire of New York bred. So he's, like I said, he's been a revelation at only $5,000 at Three Chimneys. So get in while you can now with Sharp Azteca, because if his horses keep running like this, that fee is going to double, triple, quadruple, quintuple. You know the deal. It's definitely the time to get in. So we got a couple other races to mention. Not a gigantic weekend of racing at Saratoga, but we do have 2 graded stakes. We got the Grade 1 Fourstardave and the Grade 2 Saratoga Special. Looks like a nice weekend of racing overall. Fourstardave looks like it's going to get a pretty short field. We got Smoking in there. It looks like Casa Creed. Looks like Regal Glory might try the boys in the Fourstardave. We don't have the entries just yet, but trying to follow in the footsteps of Got Stormy last year. And she's obviously has put her name in the record books with her Fourstardave heroics. So it looks like we're going to have about a 6-horse field. Over under, whether Chad is going to have more than 3 of the 6 horses in there. And then in the Saratoga Special, we're probably going to have a short field also, but that's because of the presence of Gulfport, and there's been a lot of nice 2-year-olds who have run so far this year, but I have yet to see a race that measures up to Gulfport's win, and as John would say, the Bashful Manor Stakes, where he ran off and won by a dozen lengths in a total canter, and he's just a super, super powerful looking horse. Son of Uncle Mo, I believe, from the friends at Coolmore. And I'm really looking forward to seeing him. I don't think it's going to be a great betting race because he's going to be 1-5 or 2-5 or thereabouts, but I'm really looking forward to seeing him on the track. Anything else from you guys on the Saratoga races?
Yeah, first of all, believe it or not, Chad Brown has never won the Fourstardave. Can you imagine a grade 1 turf stakes race in New York? He's never won it, but he's going after it with Regal Glory, the filly, taking on the boys in there. And Mr. Cassie sure proved that can be done. Got Stormy won this race twice in recent years for that. And I want to on Gulfport, let's look. He won by 12 and a quarter lengths, and must be a superstar because in that race was no other than Stay on Good Side. John?
That's exactly right. We can honestly say that we were one of the horses that got trounced by that superstar.
It was an honor. It was an honor to be trounced.
It was an honor and privilege. All I can tell you is that Gulfport has the best hind end quarters that I've ever seen, because I've seen a lot of it. That being said, guys, you guys touched on all the important parts of the races, but you mentioned Chad Brown and this is a stake race, the Fourstardave that he hasn't won. How about, it looks like he's only going to have one horse in that race, and there's two grade ones at Churchill that we just talked about, and he's only got one entry in that in one of those two races too. Where the hell are all Chad's good turf horses? Why aren't they running in the Beverly D? And why doesn't he have more than one horse in the Arlington Million? And how come he's only going to have one horse in the Fourstardave? For the love of God, man, where are his turf horses?
He ran 1, 2, 3, 4 at the Diana a couple of weeks ago. I think he might have 2 in the Fourstardave. I think he's going to have Masson in there too, won the Forbidden Apple, but maybe not. I'm just looking at the probables right now. But John, I think Chad's going to be all right. It's just a hunch.
No question he's going to be all right. But here's a guy that really controls that sector of racing.
But his thing is, I feel like more turf fillies and mares than the boys.
So he's got nothing in the Beverly D.
Yeah. Right. Chad, step it up. You heard it from John Green. Chad, step it up. You're slacking. You're falling off.
In the Beverly
John
D.
Green said it.
John, he does have Rougier in the Beverly D, which is his 11th best filly mare.
He's got the one.
Horse.
He's got the one.
Exactly.
I know. That is the truth. That is the truth. I was interested to see that in the Beverly D there was a 3-year-old filly that's coming over that Brian's bringing over, actually.
Lily Pond.
Yeah, which is interesting also. But anyway, we've already talked about those races ad nauseum. Anyway, come on, Chad. Where are those runners? We want to see you in the winner's circle, buddy. That's it. We'd like to see your smiling face in the winner's circle.
Tough crowd. The guy's got like 30 winners already at the Saratoga meet, but yeah.
I'm not criticizing him. I'm just asking. I don't want to have my California license revoked.